Question 4. How did you use media technologies in the construction and research, planning and evaluation stages? Pete Fraser, 2002, suggested that key to a strong media coursework project is professionalism and organisation, suggesting that research and planning is vital when making a media product. In my stage of planning and research, I used a wide range of different technologies in order for my production to be where it is today. I began with using Google for my research, Bubblelist to organise my ideas, Prezi to present my ideas forward, and SurveyMonkey to gain feedback. This all contributed to the research part of my production. In the planning stages, I used Movie Maker in order to storyboard my ideas and see them come partially alive. Those listed above all begin for my main product. For my ancillary, I also use Google to research as well as YouTube to view other short films to gain ideas, but most importantly, Photoshop to design my flat pans of my poster and my double page spread. During the construction of my media piece, I use Photoshop, CS5, InDesign and Adobe Premiere. Specifically from Photoshop, I manipulated my images for my poster and double page spread. For my film poster, I began with 2 Play-Doh hearts. I opened them on a transparent background and only intended to manipulate them slightly by going to Image, Adjustments, and then Brightness and Contrast, upping the brightness and contrast by around +10. Once those looked complete, I put them into Mosaic, making a website I found using Google, and added the rest of my image. The website then did the rest, creating the poster imagery. For the title, I used the website DaFont and copied and pasted that on top of the image, placing it where I felt looked best. I then used a text tool to add the rest of my text, manipulating it to make it smaller. That then was my poster finished. For my double page spread, I used Photoshop to manipulate my image of 2 characters kissing. On this image, I used a brightness and contrasting tool to brighten up my image slightly by around +10, and the contrast slightly less, around +7 to around 8. I then used a blur tool on size 90 to blur out the background of my image to make sure my 2 main characters stood out as the main part of the image. Finally, I used the correction tool to remove imperfections on my character's skin, in this case Play-Doh, giving a smooth, more flawless finish. After this image was done, I moved on to the second smaller image of my double page spread, this being the 2 sat on the sofa. This picture needed very little manipulation, and so all I did was crop around the appropriate size and up the contrast and brightness slightly by around +4. After this, I took the manipulated images and put them into InDesign, where I had already made a full column template by measuring the real magazine double page spread and entering the units. I then added the images through the input choice, positioned them and began to draw text boxes, which I went to fill with the review of my film. I also added a quote which enlarged quotations found off Google and placed it on top of imagery. This is then my second ancillary product done. For my main product, my film, I used Adobe Premiere. As I made the stop motion image, after taking all of my images, I didn't need to do much work on Premiere besides adding the images. However, some work was needed. After entering all of my thousands of images, I changed the duration to 3 frames per second, giving a quite fast-paced film. I edited the title sequence by slowing that down to 75% to give more time to read what it said. This also faded in and then back out to black and then into the next scene. This was done by a tool called Cross Dissolve, being placed on top of the intended image and dragged out for as long as needed. This worked for both fading and out. I used 5 sets of fades, all the same Cross Dissolve. When experimenting with the tool, like Page Turner, it did not look right in my film. The fades were used as the film scene, moving to the meal scene, back upstairs, onto the bed, morning, and of the bed, eventually fading back to black to show the ending of the film. Finally, I added my chosen music. I began with Johnson's upbeat Sticks and Stones song. This faded out during the title sequence into another one of Johnson's songs, We Bought a Zoo. This finally changed again right at the end into Johnson's final song, Sun. Like the images, the music faded in and out when necessary by dragging the small diamond at the end of each track down to tell it to end there. This was done as each track changed, and finally in the scene as the image faded away, so did the music. Finally, Finally is my evaluation. I made these first using Microsoft Word, eventually making them into videos on Movie Maker and AmPowerToon.